With the help of Hashem, we are learning Rosh Hashana Daf Chav Beis. We left off on Daf Chav Beis, Amid Aleph, all the way on top of the Amid. We're going to begin going back to the story that we had in the Mishnah regarding a case where it appeared where it would be unnecessary for the Eidim to come to testify, and they were coming on Shabbos, so there was a certain level of Chilul Shabbos involved, and Rabbi Akiva was the one who held them up. So we're going to have a certain clarification of this event, or a little bit of a different version of what happened, and this is connected to the concept of what, as we spoke out in Beitza, of Hitiru Soifan Mishum Tchilasan, that even when it appears for them coming to be unnecessary, if they won't be encouraged to come now, then when it will be necessary for them to come, they'll hesitate, and therefore they always should come and testify, even if they need to be Mechalel Shabbos, not only if they need to be Mechalel Shabbos on a rabbinic level, but even on a biblical level. We're going to learn a new Mishnah that speaks about a father and a son who saw the new moon, that they should come to testify together. And Chevra, we learned in Sanhedrin that a father and a son may not be part of the same group. Really, no halachic relatives are allowed to be this part of the same group of witnesses, yet they have to come together, because maybe either the father or the son will not upstand, will not be able to respond to all of the questions of the interrogation. One of them might become disqualified. There might be another non-relative there in the Beis Din, and for that you'll only need one more witness, so that the father and the son or any other relative come together. And finally, we're going to learn the source that tells us that the establishment of the calendar, this is before Hillel, the minor, made the calendar until Mashiach, when we established it based on the testimony of witnesses, it must be done in front of the greatest sages of the generation. And in the vast majority of times that happened, it happened in the Sanhedrin in Eretz Yisrael, but as we'll speak out, theoretically, if there would be an unusual circumstance where the greatest Jewish halachic authority is living, or has his Beis Din then outside Eretz Yisrael, then the calendar could be, and actually there were very rare times that it was established there as well. Now we will learn that whoever robs or willfully transgresses any Isur D'Oraisa for monetary gain, such a person is biblically not qualified to be a witness. A person who robs on a rabbinic level, as we'll give examples, is rabbinically not qualified to be a witness. And that includes, they will not be qualified to be the witness regarding the sighting of the new moon. And we will conclude the first Perek. We will, God willing, start the second Perek, which continues to tell us many rules regarding Kiddush HaChodesh. Firstly, that the witnesses that testify to Beis Din that they saw the new moon, Beis Din has to know who they are. Beis Din has to know that they are trustworthy people because of the Baisusim, as we'll explain who they were and what they wanted to accomplish. They attempted once to trick the Beis Din. They made a disruption, they made a kilkul. And another very important nuance is that when it comes to testifying in front of the Beis Din, there you need to have two witnesses that they saw the new moon. But once Beis Din established that today or tomorrow was going to be Rosh Chodesh, when they would send shluchim to notify everyone when Rosh Chodesh is, you did not need to hear it from witnesses. That means if we would live anywhere in Eretz Yisrael or in Chutz La'aretz, even if we would only hear it from one person, we would believe that one person's, so to say, testimony that Beis Din established that day as Rosh Chodesh. And if we'll have time, we'll begin the Mishnah Daf Chav Beis Amid Beis that speaks about another kilkul, another disruption that was made by the Kutim. How initially the way Beis Din communicated which day was Rosh Chodesh was through a very simple system that traveled very quick. They would light a relay of torches on top of mountaintops, and that would really spread the word. And here the Kutim came, we'll speak about who they were, and they made a disruption, and from then on, no more torches, but only shluchim, and again, it can be even one, but you have to have individual people that come and notify the olam in that location when Rosh Chodesh is. Now, we left off on Daf Chav Beis on top of the Amid. Before we continue, I just want to share that on our WhatsApp, Danny, the Gabbai, asked a very important question. I wanted to answer it here for everyone. The question is, we keep on learning that this lunar cycle is 29 and a half days. 29 and a half days. And therefore, generally, a Jewish month, a Yiddish Chodesh, is either going to have 29 days, that's called a deficient month, That is when day 30 becomes day number 1. Or you can have a month where you have a chodesh malei, a full month. The month has 30 days, and the next day, the theoretical day 31 becomes day number 1 of the new month. There were times that we did not know what day was Rosh Chodesh. And as we began learning in yesterday's shiur, like today, we keep the Seder the 15th and the 16th. Now, why do we keep it on the 16th? Why? The Torah says to keep it on the 15th. We keep it on the 16th because maybe what we call Beis of the month is really Aleph. It's either Aleph or Beis. And Taka by Rosh Hashana, both days are Rosh Hashana, but what days are Rosh Hashana? Aleph and Beis. Day 30 cannot be Rosh Chodesh. The word 30 means it's the 30th, not the first, not the beginning. So then he wanted to understand, okay, so we have, some days 1 day Rosh Chodesh, some days 2 days Rosh Chodesh, even though we have a fixed calendar. If you want to add another day Rosh Chodesh, max, make it Aleph and Beis. How can you have Yom Shloishim, which is the way it's today, as Rosh Chodesh? 30 is not Rosh Chodesh. That's a very important question, and I would just want to share again and acknowledge that Rabbi Yosef Losh taught me the little bit that I understand from all of these laws. And it's very important. There's different answers to the question, but this is the way he understands it. During the times that we were Mekadesh the Chodesh al pi hariyah, what made the day Rosh Chodesh? Beis Din's declaration that today is Rosh Chodesh. And as we learned, even if Beis Din makes a mistake, or as we also learned, if they have communal needs, and they know today is not Rosh Chodesh, or tomorrow is not Rosh Chodesh, they had the right to establish Rosh Chodesh according to what they seem fit. They established Rosh Chodesh. But the moment we went away until Mashiach from establishing the new month, Al Pi Re'iyah, how are we establishing Rosh Chodesh? It's called Al Pi Cheshbon, based on the calculations that were made by the Sanhedrin under the leadership of Hillel the Minor. Chevre, the Cheshbon is that a lunar cycle is 29 and a half days. What does it mean, 29 and a half days? It means that when you enter the 30th day, halfway in the 30th day, that's when the new moon really begins. Now, yes, we generally have a deficient month and a full month. That's more or less, aside of the months today of Cheshvan and Kislev, it's Mesudr. 1 day 20, 1 month 29, 1 month 30. 29, 30, 29, 30. But we cannot ignore the fact that since we are establishing the calendar based on the real calculation, on the movements of the sun and the moon, Rosh Chodesh, you can't say on day 30, that it's just day 30. You can't say that, because in middle of day 30 is already the new month. Right? Think about it. Every 2 months, in 59 days, you're going to have 2 months. 2 moilads will be in 59 days, because it's 29 and a half days. So therefore, enachanami, every second month, day 29 will never be Rosh Chodesh. The moilad never happens after only 29 days. Sometimes after 29, in the next day, that's when you have the new month. But whenever you have a month that you want to make it into a 30-day month, you can't deny the fact that on the 30th day, at least theoretically, I'm not saying that the moilad always happens on the 30th day, but on the middle, 29 and a half days, it is the beginning of the month. On the other hand, you can't make Rosh Chodesh in the middle of the day. So to make that compromise, they made 2 days Rosh Chodesh, the 30th day, and with Rosh Chodesh and Chatzi Halal, and also day number 1, because you can't only call day 30 Rosh Chodesh, because you cannot begin a month in the middle of the day. That's the Nakud of the answer, and let's start Chaver on top of the Amar and Daf Chav Beis. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam b'sha'ar kol yimei dvarim. So in the Mishnah we had a machlokes if the moon was seen ba'alil. Everyone saw the moon. Does everyone have to go to the Sanhedrin? And if it involves going beyond the Tchum, or if it involves Chilul Shabbos? So we had a machlokes Tanoim. Then the Mishnah gave a story. That story wasn't necessarily that the moon was so clear to all. That story is that many people saw the moon at a certain location. They had no idea whether they saw the moon in Yerushalayim. But when they were going to Yerushalayim, they were going through Lud, and Rabbi Akiva was counting 1 pair, 2 pairs, 40 pairs of witnesses are going through on Shabbos. There was at least a Chilul Shabbos of the Tchum, so we stopped them. So Rabban Gamliel tells Rabbi Akiva, again, like we mentioned, that he tiru seifon mishum tchilasam, don't stop them, because maybe next time you're not going to have that many people. And one might think, if I was not needed last time, I'm not needed this time. That's the way the Mishnah recorded the story, and now the Gemara has a different version. and it's really connected one to the other. So says the on top of the Yomid, and the Mishnah uses the words ve'ikvan Rabbi Akiva detained them. Chulei says the Gemara Tanya, we have a different version in a Braisa. That Amar Rebbe Yehuda Atana says Chas v'Sholem should Rabbi Akiva ikvan. That was not the story. Rabbi Akiva did not stop them. What really happened is that Shezefed, that's the name of a person. Who was Shezefed? He was the head of the community in Godeir. He was the one that stopped them. Now, why did he stop them? And why does our Mishnah mention Rabbi Akiva? So we mentioned this yesterday, according to some Achroinim. There's a machlokes whether tchumen is isur derabanan or isur d'oraisa. Rabbi Akiva is the one that says that going beyond the tchum is a biblical violation. So the Shezefer thought that those who allow the Eidim to travel far, that's because they're not violating an isur d'oraisa. But since Shezefer ruled like Rabbi Akiva, that tchumen is d'oraisa, he felt that if people are violating a biblical violation, so enochanami, if you're needed, go. If you're needed, go. But you have 40 pairs of witnesses. Only one pair is needed. He felt that there has to be a limit. How far do you say that hitiru soifan atru mishum tchilasan? He was the one that stopped him, and on that Shalach Rabbi Gamliel, that I'm so upset with you, you're so wrong that you are not fit to be the communal leader, and vehoiridu migdolasai, he demoted him, which is a big chiddush of Rabbi Gamliel. And guys, we know that the Chachamim have the power la'akar davar min ha'torah, but normally they do that b'shev al taisa. Here they were violating a isur d'oraisa, and it was not needed now. The concept that let us allow them to do it now, so next time they're going to come, this whole idea of hitiru soifan mishum tchilasan is a rabbinic idea. So there was a leg for him to stand on, that we don't say that if you are bekum va'asei, violating an isur d'oraisa, and yet Rabban Gamliel called him out. Okay, next Mishnah. This new Mishnah, again, like we mentioned in Sanhedrin, we have all these psukim from where we learned that a father and a son, really relatives, there's Rishon b'Rishon, Sheni b'Sheni, Shlishi b'Shlishi. However, we'll learn the sugya of relatives. Relatives not only cannot testify one for the other, they cannot form a group together. So says the Mishnah that if you have a avu b'noi, sheros ha'chodesh, they saw the new moon. Guys, on Shabbos, they know that if they travel together, the Beis Din will not accept them together, yet still, yei lechu, even Chilul Shabbos. And again, even if the Chilul Shabbos, we'll see soon in the Mishnah, you try to minimize the violation of Shabbos, but even if you have to violate it midoraisa, not loishem it start from zemzeh, not because we combine them together, we do not. Elo she'im yipasal echad mehem, if someone else in Yerushalayim will not pass the interrogation, if someone else will not pass the interrogation, and you'll be missing one witness, then you'd start if Hasheni Machir, or if the father and the son both will not pass the interrogation, one of them will pass, so there'll be at least one of them that can join another group. Now, Rab Shimon Omer, Avu B'noi, he argues, he holds that a father and a son, and any other relatives, which ordinarily may not be witnesses, Kshedim, Le'edus HaChodesh.
Turn your mic down, please.
Got it. It's Kshedim Le'edus HaChodesh. They can testify together. Why do they hold they can testify together? Because normally witnesses are coming to notify based on something that they do not know. By Kiddush HaChodesh, even during the times where the Sanhedrin established a new month based on the seeing of the new moon, but Beis Din knew the Cheshbon. They knew already whether the new moon was seeable or not. So it's not that serious. So you can combine a father and a son. And Amar Rabbi Yosi, Maise b'Toivia Haroifa, Toivia, the doctor, said one Shiras HaChodesh b'Yerushalayim, that he saw the new moon in Yerushalayim, him and his son. And va'avdei meshuchrad, we're speaking about a non-Jewish slave, Eved Kanani, who once that slave is emancipated, that person is a full-fledged Jew. It's a Jew that doesn't have Jewish lineage, which regarding certain issues cannot be a witness. And the Teviyah, the doctor, another nuance we see from the Mishnah, that if I saw the new moon, before I went to the Sanhedrin, if I was nearby my local Beis Din, I would ask them whether I'm fit. Because why would I make a trip if what I saw is irrelevant or not going to be accepted anyways. So they went to the Kohanim. This is just the way it was. There was a Beis Din of Kohanim nearby this doctor, and he asked the Beis Din, three of us saw, what should we do? So they told him, you and your son can testify together. In other words, they ruled like Rab Shimon. However, they also told him a paslas avdoi, because they had this pasuk, they learned from Sukkim, that if someone does not have Jewish lineage, he cannot testify regarding the new moon. However, when they came in front of the Sanhedrin, they told him, the Kahanim, they didn't know the din. They accepted him and his Eved. So good that his Eved went with him, his ex-Eved. However, upaslu as benoi, they disqualified his son because they did not paskin like Rab Shimon. We do not paskin, Krevim are not kosher to be witnesses. Says the Gemara, Amar Abli.
Can you clarify something on this whole testimony situation?
Yep.
My understanding of Eidos is normally two people see something together. Here, we're talking about they're like, you're going to take the son and match him up with somebody else. Does that mean that if one guy sees the moon on his own, he goes to Yerushalayim to testify?
Yeah, yes, he does.
That he gets paired up with somebody else?
Yes, he does. Yes, and I'll tell you...
This is a different type of Eidos than if I...
Yes, that's exactly...
Right? It has to be two people.
Yes. I'll tell you, Daniel, let me add. I'll tell you more. Normally, when people see things together and they come to testify, if any one of them becomes disqualified, the whole group is disqualified. And here, the Mishnah said clearly that the father and son will come, and if one of them doesn't pass the interrogation, then he'll join another. Clear, and you see that Shimon holds it can be a father and a son. Why? Because because of the cheshbon, Beis Din knows the emes already. Even though they don't do it based on the calculation, but they know the calculation. There's a mitzvah to do it based on the citing of witnesses. That's why, correct, the rules are not the same. Very good. Says the Gemara, Amar Rab Levi, my Talmud Rab Shimon.
Rabbi,
yes.
What's the difference between the Kohanim? What's the difference between the Kohanim seeing the evidence and the base?
So very good. So Tzvika, the way many Achronim learned the Kohanim, even though this doctor was a doctor in Jerusalem, but whenever people saw the moon were near a local Beis Din, they would consult with the local Beis Din, like, should I even bother to go? What should I do? It happened to be that the Beis Din that he consulted with was a Beis Din of Kohanim. That's the way we learned the Mishnah. It was some sort of local Beis Din, but they were not the ones that actually were part of the committee that determines the new month. It's L'chora Kohanim is just the way it was, but let's go weiter. So Amar Rab Levi, my Talmud Rab Shimon. In other words, L'kula Alma, normally relatives are not qualified to testify together. So the answer is because it says in Parshas Boy regarding the mitzvah of making the calendar. Vayomer Hashem el Moshe ve'el Aharon. Amazing. They were brothers. Be'eretz Mitzrayim leimor hachodesh azel lochem. Wow, lochem. What's the drasha? Eidu zu tehei mesura. Even by two like you, even brothers can testify, which includes brothers, father and son, Rishon B'Sheni, all of the types of relatives that normally may not. The Rabbanan, who argue with that, they hold no, the word lochem means Eidu zu tehei mesura lochem, that this testimony, who's qualified to receive it? Only Moshe and Aaron, only the greatest of the generation. And they're very important, because if not, you'll have chaos. If not, every Beis Din will make their own calendar. Now, I want you to know that L'kula Alma, the Rif, Rabbeinu Yitzchak Alfasi, Rabbeinu Yitzchak from Fez, who we have in our Gemaras, who wrote he took out the non-halachic parts and he recorded almost like the first Shulchan Aruch from the Gemara. He blew the shofar Shabbos Rosh Hashana. That everyone knows. And he said that just like, guys, we learned together, that in the Beis HaMikdash they would blow the shofar Shabbos, even Rosh Hashana. It's not the Beis HaMikdash, but it's in where the greatest Beis Din is resided. And that happens to be in the Beis HaMikdash. And he said that his Beis Din is the greatest Beis Din of the generation, which it was, and therefore he blew the shofar Shabbos Rosh Hashana. The Rebbe says, based on that, and I heard this from my Rosh Yeshiva Rab Leib Shapiro, and this is a big statement, and the Rebbe verbringt about it twice, and I have sources if people need, that he attempted to re-establish the calendar based on the sighting of the moon. This is before Mashiach. Now, whether he attempted or whether he did it, I don't remember. But the Rebbe connected one with the other, and all based on this Gemara, that once, if you have a Beis Din, that it's accepted that this is the greatest Beis Din of the generation, then we should go back to be Mekadosh the Chodesh, Al Pi Hara'iyah, in front of a Beis Din. Wow, let's go weiter. Amar Rabbi Yossi, Meiser b'toiviyah haroifa chuli. Amar Rab Chanan bar Rava. I want you to know that the halach is like Rab Shimon. Now hold on. The problem is we have a klal. When Rabbeinu HaKadosh brings a story, that's normally the way Rebbe is siding with one of the two sides of the machlokes. So Amar Rav Huna le Rab Chanan bar Rava, I don't understand. In the Mishnah you have a machlokes. So not only is it a machlokes and Rabbi Yossi argued, but umaiseh. I mean, the story was that the Sanhedrin, right, they pasuled benoi. They did not accept a father and a son. Va'at omrat halacha ki Rab Shimon. Oh. And so Amar Loi, 1 second, you have a good question, but I did not say this now for the first time. I said this rule, that halacha ki Rab Shimon in front of the great Rav, and he did not say anything against it, which means he agreed with it. So right away, Amar Loi, you must have had a different version in the Mishnah. That makes all the difference. Like, who said what? Heicha Tanesa or Heicha Tanes. What was your version? Amalei. So when he spoke out the Mishnah by heart, he had the opposite version. He had the version that Rab Shimon was the one that said that Avum Benoi are not kosher. The opposite. Rabbi Yossi was the one, or the Tanakama was the one that said it's kosher. Now it fits. Now the story, the bottom line is we don't accept a father and a son. So Amar Lei Mishumachar Eliyam Alach V'Lei Midi, and Nachamal Amar Tavi, the son of Mari Tavi, in the name of Marukva, in the name of Shmuel. Look how great this is. So we're going to go with the Girsa of the Messiah Hashas, that Ein Halacha Ke Rab Shimon, or the version in the Gemara again is the halach is like Rab Shimon, but that means that according to those who had a different version in the Mishnah, if Rab Shimon was the one that said that a father and a son cannot testify together, halacha is like that. No one is debating the halacha. Relatives may not testify, even though it's taka not like normal witnesses. Taka Beis Din already knows, but still at kedei kachloi. Next Mishnah, final, second to last Mishnah in the Perek. Now, as we spoke out in the introduction, there's a pasuk in Parshas Mishpatim that reads, Al toshes yotcha im rasha lihiyois eid chamas. Don't place your hand with the wicked man to be a thieving witness. A thieving witness means that one who is a thief, a ganef, a gazlan, on a biblical level, cannot be a witness. Not only that, but as we will see, if someone violates biblical prohibitions for monetary gain, then they're not trustworthy to be witnesses. That's midah oraisa. However, there are certain people that what they do is not kosher, but on a biblical level, you can't call them thieves or robbers. They are robbers midrabanan, as we'll give examples. Midrabanan, they can't be witnesses. And since we just established that there is a havamina to think that the witnesses that come to testify the sighting of the new moon, we don't uphold them to the same standard as all the other testimonies. There is a machlokes whether a father and a son can be a witness. If one testimony, if one aid becomes disqualified, it doesn't disqualify the other if he can join another group. So you would think that maybe if he's only a robber midrabanan, he can be a witness, says the Mishnah. No. That the Elu Hein Hapsulim, the following are puzzled with a Chiddush, not only if he's a robber midairaisa, then there's nothing for the Mishnah. The Mishnah doesn't have to tell us that. We have a pasuk in Chumash. Al Tashes Yadchem Imrasha Liyais Eit Chamas. But even if someone is a Masachik Bekuvya, someone who gambles, what's the problem with gambling? Says Rashi that the one who made the bet was hoping to win, and when they lose, even though they give their money to the other person, but when they agree to give it, they gave it on the presumption they will win. So they don't fully give it. So the recipient, midrabanan, is a gazlan. Because we paskin that asmachta loikanya, even though their agreement was made, it was not a full, wholehearted agreement, and therefore, like Rashi brings the pasuk, that from where do we know that if someone steals, He may not be a witness. That's from a pasuk in Shmuel. Vayigzel es hachanis. Someone stole a spear. In other words, when you steal something biyodayim, then you're a gazlan. You can't be a witness. When a person gambles, he's not grabbing the money out of the other person. No, the loser gave him the money. Midrabanan, he's not allowed to take it. But midrabanan, he's a ganef. Midrabanan, therefore he cannot be a testimony. Similarly, umalve beribis, people who lend money and they charge interest. Same thing. The borrower is giving it. You're not grabbing the money. But since you're not allowed to take it, you can't be a witness. People, it's another type of gambling. There's other interpretations. We'll leave it at that. People who bet, which dove will win, horse betters, horse racing. The soicharei shvius, that's very important. Soicharei shvius is not a ganef. Soicharei shvius is, as we learned, that one may not do commerce with produce that grew in the 7th year in the Holy Land. And someone who does commerce shows that for money gains, he doesn't care what God said. In other words, that's not about robbery. He didn't rob from anyone. It just shows that I have to make this money. Anyone who violates Isurei Doiraisa for monetary gains is not a kosher witness. And va'avadim are pasul midoiraisa, kal v'chomer meisha, like Rashi brings us from Bava Kama. A woman is not believed to be a witness, and that's based on a pasuk in Shoiftim, where it says that v'amdu shnei ha'anoshim. So women are ineligible to be witnesses. Women are allowed to marry into kahal. An eved cannot even marry into a kol. So the Gemara has a kal v'chomer avada. They are not kosher witnesses. And zeh klal, and here we have a klal that kol eidu she'eino ishak she'edolah. Any testimony for which a woman will not be accepted, halachically, af hein einon k'shenim law, they will not be believed. Now the Mishnah is teaching us something by inference, and that's what the Gemara is saying. So what is that telling you? That ha'isha k'shedim, if there is a topic for which we believe a woman, limashal, a woman's husband disappeared. You don't know what happened to him. She's an aguna. If a woman comes to testify to Beis Din that her husband died, we believe the woman. That's an example. So for something that a woman will be believed, af hein kishedim law, all those mentioned in the Mishnah, the ones that rabbinically are ganavim, will also be believed. And indeed, Amar Ravashi zoysemeres gazlan didivneim, someone who is a gazlan on a rabbinic level, kshedim leedus isha, will be believed. To come to Beis Din, to tell Beis Din that so-and-so's husband, that this woman's husband passed away, got killed. In other words, she's not a married woman. But Rashi points out that's only someone who's a gazlan midrabanan, which is someone who makes a living from gambling, according to many opinions, or someone who lends with interest. But Rashi writes, if someone is a gazlan de'oiraisa, that means they grab from the other what they have. My father would say the Brazilian government, gazlana midoida. So then they cannot be, they're not neman to be a witness even for this. Okay, now the final Mishnah in the first Perek, mi shiras hachodesh. What the Mishnah wants to point out is that when we say that originally for all of the months, then only for Nisan and Tishrei, this concept that you can violate Shabbos if you have to, it means violate Midrabanan. And if you have to, violate Midoraisa. And you know what? What happens if you don't have to violate, but you need someone to help you? That other person will violate. Oichet, whatever is needed to get this person in front of the Beis Din is done. Mi shiras hachodesh. A person saw the new moon, but he's ill, he's sick, he can't walk. So you know what? Guys, if you remember from Shabbos, mechamer, that if my animal has a load and I am walking my animal, it's a biblical violation. Taka not with skila, but that can be done. And then even more, what happens if the ill person is on a bed? So now you have to carry the bed. Ooh, that's already an Isur Dairaisa with skila, that's hoitzah. You can do that. More, what happens? Im tzuda lahem. You think that maybe there is an ambush waiting. You're traveling through, East New York. Maybe there's ganavim there, so I'm going to go holding a gun, a weapon. Gamzeh, you can carry the weapon. Loikchen the other maklis, take sticks with your hands. If it's very far away and you need food, carry food. Loikchen the other mezoinos. In other words, whatever is needed, we don't look, God forbid, to be Mechalel Shabbos, but if there is a necessity, even indirect, you do that as well. Now, Sha'al Mahalach Laila v'yoy Mechalem es Shabbos. As long as you live in a distance, that even if you have to walk for 23 hours, because you see what we said, that the new moon will always be seen in the western horizon. That's the way it's going to be. Because it's sunset, and that's when the little sliver of the moon, because of the sun not blocking, not giving too much light, you'll see the little moon. So people will see the new moon by Shkia time. So if you see it Friday night Shkia time, and if you walk, even if you have to walk the whole Friday night, the whole Shabbos day, you're going to come to the Sanhedrin 10 minutes before the end of Shabbos. Do that. Because as long as the Sanhedrin will hear Shabbos day that you saw the moon last night, verstehst? Boom! Then that day won't be 30, that day will become day number 1. Shal mahalach laila v'yoyim mechalin es ha-Shabbos and v'yoytzim la'edus ha-chodesh. Shenemer, as it says, Eilu mayadei Hashem asher tikru oysam b'mayadam. You will declare it in their fixed times. We want for it to be fixed at the right time. If you saw it, make sure, do everything you need to do to fix it in the right time. And with that, we say, Hadran Aloch Arba'a Rosh Hashanim, and we're going to start with the second chapter, which is Mamish, the source of the whole rules of Kiddush HaChodesh. We began the rules of Kiddush HaChodesh, what was needed, how was it done, with many pratim, and that will be the topic of the second chapter. So now really we are continuing the topic. So two people come in front of the Sanhedrin, and they both saw the new moon last night. Based on their testimony, Beis Din will declare today Rosh Chodesh. Says the Mishnah, Im ein makir and oisoi, but if the members of the Sanhedrin, who they are the ones that have to accept the testimony, they don't know the witnesses, they don't know if the witnesses are trustworthy. So then mishalchin imoy acher lahaidoi. Then the local Beis Din, that's Tzvika, the local Beis Din, they're going to send someone, it sounds like one person, someone who the Sanhedrin knows to be a God-fearing, trustworthy Jew, to go in front of the Sanhedrin and to testify that the person who saw the new moon is someone who you can trust. We'll see in a moment what we mean with the trust. No, it's you can send someone to vouch for him. Why do you need that? Why do you need that? There's a rule, Kol Yisrael b'cheskas kashrus. So when people come, you have to interrogate the Eidim. But if they pass the interrogation, why do you have to know through an aid, really through two Eidim, that he's trustworthy? So indeed, the Mishnah says that Barishoina, before something, originally, anyone who walked in, Kol Yisrael b'cheskas kashrus. But Mishekilkulu ha-baisusim, when the baisusim disrupted, then iskinu shelo yeh mekabel element amikidin, that you have to know who's testifying, and if you don't know, then other people are sent, and chevra, the other people can also be mechalel Shabbos. It's behemshach to the previous Perek. So, if Reuven saw the new moon, Sanhedrin doesn't know Reuven. They know Shimon. So not only can Reuven be Mechalel Shabbos, Shimon, if need be, can be Mechalel Shabbos, because that's what's needed. Now let me say like this. First of all, Baisusim is a name of a group of people that are followers of someone called Baisus. There was Tzadok and Baisus. They are the real founders of Christianity. But that began in the beginnings of the Second Temple era. It all began by them denying the Torah Shebal Peh, them denying the divinity, the emes of how Chazal interpret the written Torah. Or I take back the word interpret. We don't interpret. God told Moshe Rabbeinu the meaning of the written Torah. God gave the oral Torah to Moshe Rabbeinu, and we have a tradition passed from teacher to student all the way to us today. The way we keep Yiddishkeit, that's what God told Moshe Rabbeinu. And they put a doubt in that. And what they began to say is no, that the written word is from God, and everything else is only a rabbinic interpretation. So let me say like this, when it comes to keeping the Omer, it says in the Torah, bring the Omer mimachras ha-Shabbos. The literal translation means bring the Omer on Sunday. We know that sometimes Yom Tov is called Shabbos. Mimachras ha-Shabbos means the day after the first day of Pesach, which is the 16th day of Iyar, the 6th day of Nisan. That's when we bring the Omer. And mind you, 50 days afterwards is Shavuos. They wanted for Shavuos to fall out on a Sunday, these Baisusim. And they insisted that, wrongfully, that when it says Mimachras HaShabbos, it means that the first Sunday after Pesach, the first Sunday after the Seder, that's when you bring the Omer. Always on a Sunday. And don't forget, if you begin counting the Omer, if you bring the Omer on Sunday, just, the 50th day is going to be on a Sunday. Now think about this scenario. If Rosh Chodesh, just to know the days of the weeks, if Rosh Chodesh Nisan is on Sunday, the 15th day will be on Sunday. If Rosh Chodesh Nisan is on Shabbos, the 15th day will be on Shabbos. So in the few times that Rosh Chodesh Nisan was on Shabbos, so the Seder was on Shabbos, so the 16th of Nisan was Sunday, then we were doing what God wanted, and they felt happy, not that we care about them, because they felt, now you're doing it right, now you're doing it on Sunday. So there was a time where the moon was not seen. Shabbos was the 30th day. If there would be witnesses that would see the moon Friday night, they would go to the Sanhedrin, and the Sanhedrin would have declared Shabbos as Rosh Chodesh Nisan. So again, if Rosh Chodesh Nisan is on Shabbos, the 15th day, the first day of Pesach, the Seder would be Friday night Shabbos, and then we would bring the Omer the way they thought it has to be brought. No one saw the new moon. Shabbos would remain the 30th of Adar, even though we already learned that normally Adar Hasamach L'Nisan should have 30 days, but they were going to make Rosh Chodesh on Sunday. That would mean we would bring the Omer on Monday. So the Baisusim, to disrupt that, they hired fake testimonies. They sent them to the Sanhedrin, as we'll see today on Amud Beis, and they testified that they saw the moon Friday night. Had Beis Din accepted that testimony, then they would have declared that Shabbos day not 30, but day number 1, and then they would have gotten their Mimachras HaShabbos. We discovered that they hired witnesses. So now that we saw there's a group of people that are motivated to trick up the Beis Din, they wouldn't do it every time, but they would do it especially when it's on or off a day, if you're going to get it Mimachras HaShabbos Sunday or Monday. So they said we always have to know who's coming to testify. Now, who has to come and tell the Beis Din that the person who saw the moon is trustworthy? The Mishnah uses the words Mishalchen imoy acher. Acher is in the singular. So frek the Gemara, my acher, if you're going to interpret that literally, it means chad. One other person is going to be believed. Daf chav beis amid beis. No, the chad mi mehemen v'hatanya. Did we not learn that umaysa shabo hu ve'eda of imoy lohoid olav, that sometimes someone came. The someone who came, the moon seer was not known to the Sanhedrin. So therefore, following the Mishnah, he brought witnesses with him. You need to have witnesses. By the way, that was on Shabbos, of course. No, if you don't need 2 witnesses, they can be machal Shabbos. The Braisa that's recording that 2 other people that were already known to the Sanhedrin came along with them, that's because they were necessary. So Amar Rav Papa, my acher.
If I don't trust the unknown guy, why wouldn't I just send the trustworthy guy?
Because the trustworthy guy did not see the moon. You have to have a guy that see the moon. The trustworthy guy did not see the moon.
But he's going to be a shliach for the untrustworthy.
Doesn't work that way. Who has to testify is, I saw the moon. But if Beis Din doesn't know me, but they know Yakir, then you come to testify that you know me. I'm not, God forbid, from the Baisusim, I'm not from the Tzedukim, I'm from a Yid, and then it's good. Now, Acher means another pair. And Hachin am mistabra, because you can ask the same question also. If the Sanhedrin doesn't know the moon seer, again, him in the singular, what, only 1 witness is enough? My oisoi, does it mean oisoi chad? V'chad mi mehemen? Absolutely not. You need to have 2 witnesses that testify. Mishpat ksivbei. When it says ki choik li Yisrael hu mishpat lalekei Yaakov, we learn that again, Danny. What? Even though it's not mamish like normal witnesses, but it's coined as a judgment. Judgments can only be based on 2 witnesses. So Ella my oisoi. Who's coming to say that they saw the moon? Not 1, 2, a pair. Oisei means zug. So the singular here means really 1 pair. So my acher, who is the other? It's a pair to testify, to tell the Sanhedrin. They know Yakir, they know Dan, they know both of you, they don't know me, so both of you have to come. My acher zug acher. Now, the chad loy mehemen, hold on, is 1 person taka not enough? to tell Beis Din that so-and-so is trustworthy. We learned for Hatanya Maisa with the great Rabbi Nehoiroi. And by the way, if you remember, this might be Rabbi Meir. Whether it's, and sometimes he was called with one name, with another name. What the great Rabbi Nehoiroi, Shaholach Eitzel Ha'ed Lohoir Olav Shabbos Ba'usha. Another detail, that even though the Sanhedrin is supposed to sit in Yerushalayim and HaKodesh in the place of the Beis HaMikdash, right, in Lishkas HaGazis, but the Romans, they expelled the Sanhedrin out from there, but they did not dismantle, they moved around 10 times. And there was a time, a long period, where their headquarters was in Usha. And that is where the calendar was established. Rab Nohiroi presumed that there was someone there, right, that saw that knows the witness. So there was a witness that's coming to testify, but they knew that the Sanhedrin doesn't know him. Rab Nohiroi could vouch for him. So it says that Rab Nohiroi went Eitzel Ha'ed Lohoir Olav Shabbos B'Usha, which means only one person went to vouch. You only need one voucher. So answers the Gemara Amri, no. Rab Nohiroi Sahadi Achrina Hava Bahadei. There was someone else that went with him. 2 people went, and they went beyond the tchum to vouch. You need 2 vouchers. Why does the Braisa not even speak about it? Because the point was that even Rab Nohiroi went. Like the great Rab Nohiroi and Yakir, he didn't go to say that he saw the new moon. That's the point. He's only going to vouch, but he has to go to vouch to make sure that the witness that saw will be known to be trustworthy. You didn't mention the other one because since the great Rab Noiroi went, there's nothing else to mention, but 2 people went. Another answer, Rav Ashi Yamar, no. Rab Noiroi in this case knew Sahado Achrina already was in Usha. The moon seer needs 2 vouchers. Rab Noiroi presumed there is already 1 voucher in Usha because that person lives there. So only I am needed. And therefore, Va'azal Rab Noiroi litztarufa bahadei. Says the Gemara, if that's the case, why did we even have to record that? No, there is a chiddush. Because you might have thought, how do you really know that that other voucher is indeed there? You don't know that. You're presuming that. Maybe Rab Noiroi should have said, listen, the moon seer needs 2 vouchers. I'm only 1. Why am I going? Because the other person who lives there will join with me. Maybe the other person won't be there. You're not certain. And if the other person will not be there, then Rabbi Nohiroi's traversing the Tchum was in vain. So you would have thought that he should not do it because there was a little doubt. Kamash Malon, no, we don't care. If normally the other voucher lives there, you presume he's there and you travel. Says the Gemara, Kiyasa Ula once came from the Holy Land to Bavel. Amar, one person says, he notified the Olam when the Sanhedrin declared Rosh Chodesh. In other words, we keep on learning about 2 witnesses. 2 people have to see the moon. And if the Sanhedrin, they don't know the 2 witnesses, 2 vouchers. Everything is 2. Mishpat. Ula came by himself. And he told the Chevre that, whatever, the last month was Malay, was Chaser. He notified when Rosh Chodesh was made. So Amar Rav Kahana, Loi mi boya Ula. Don't think it's only because of Ula, since he's a Gavra Rabahu, and that's why we believed even 1. No. Elo, afilu inish da alma, even any Pasha Teyid, Nama Mehemen. You don't need to have 2 people coming from the Beis Din. Yes, you need to have 2 witnesses going to the Beis Din, but not from the Beis Din. Why? Because of the following rule: Kol milsa da'avida la'geluya lamishakra ba'inshi. In other words, sooner or later, everyone will find out when Beis Din established the month. So there's a rule that anything that will be revealed later, people will be concerned to lie because everyone will know that they're not honest people. Tanya nami hachi bo acher. The girs is misoi fa'olam. Someone came from the end of the world. That's an expression used when someone who is a complete stranger comes. We never saw him. Someone from the end of the world came and he said, Kitchu Beis Nesach Chodesh. We believed him. You didn't know him? Because Milsa da'avida la'geluyei. Now, it says in the Mishnah, and then there was a kilkul of the Baisusim. So what we spoke out by heart is going to be written over here. So Tanach Rabbanim we learned in a Braisa. Ma kilkul Baisusim. What disruption did they make? Says the Gemara, Pamachas, there was a time, Bikshu Baisusim lahatis es Chachamim. They purposefully wanted to deceive the Chachamim. Like we mentioned, it happened to be that Friday night was the 30th of Adar. And we don't follow, as we said, the rule that you have to be machadish, that other asamach l'nisan is chaser. We learned above, no, it was mostly that way, it wasn't always that way. The Sanhedrin will only make 30 Rosh Chodesh if they would hear moon seers, witnesses. If they would take and make Shabbos Rosh Chodesh, then the Baisusim would be happy. Because like we said, if Shabbos is Rosh Chodesh, look on your calendar, then the 15th of Nisan will be on Shabbos, then Mimachras HaShabbos will be on Sunday, then Shavuos will be on Sunday. Now, we also do it that way if Rosh Chodesh is on Shabbos. If the first day of Pesach is on Shabbos, no witnesses would come because the moon was not going to be seen. We would have declared Rosh Chodesh on Sunday. We would have brought the Omer on Monday. Shavuos would have been on Monday. Bash. Right, at Bash, the second day of Pesach is the first day of Shavuos. And they wanted to disrupt it. So they hired people to falsely testify. And they paid them both together 400 zuz. But the Hashgacha Pratis is that one of these two people were loyal to the Chachamim. Echad was really, he was a double agent. He really was loyal to us. He played along that, give me the money and I'm going to falsely testify. But one of them was theirs. If both of them would have been by Yisusim Nikers, then they could have succeeded in tricking the Beis Din. They were properly prepared. Baruch Hashem, one of them was ours. Now, Shalahem, when the guy that really for bribery was going to trick the Sanhedrin, Heyid Eidusai. I mean, it wasn't Stam a person. He knew astronomy. He knew how to pass the interrogation, and they accepted his witness testimony of the Yotza. But when the one that was loyal to us, Shalanu Amrulai, so they asked him, Emoid, how did the moon appear? Because the moon can be to the north of the sun, the moon can be to the south of the sun. You have the crescent, is it facing this way, facing that way? We'll learn about that later. That's the basic questions they would ask. So Amar Lohem, and this is what he responded, and I'll do my best to share the Marsha's insight to what he was saying. I mean, he said something that sounds outrageous, but everything has a lot of wisdom in it. The Jewish people are compared to the moon. And now when the Romans were dominating Israel, and the Rome is connected to the sun, to Edom. Edom is red to the sun. So he says, I was going up in my Ladumim. He was hinting that the Adumim had too much power. And Rome and Golus is connected to Christianity. It's connected to negating the divinity of the oral Torah. It's all connected. And Viroisi, and I saw the moon, that it was crouching in between two rocks. Every statement, it's getting late, the Marsha explains how it's alluding to a certain event that shows that the Jewish people are in Golus. It's the fact that there was a chutzpah of people that were trying to deceive the Sanhedrin, that in itself was something that's a Golus. I saw the moon that was crouching in between two rocks, and the head of the moon looked like a calf. The head of the moon. The ears of the moon looked like a gdi. This is all expressions that are given in a positive way regarding the Jewish people, that you have the calf and the gdi. The ears refer to Talmidei Chachamim, and the karna of the horns of the moon looked like a deer. Also, when Yidden are in the Geula, our horns, our glory is that of an ox. But in Golus, it's diminished. In other words, we are in a diminished state. Uzunava, and the tail of the moon, Munachas Lebein Yarchoisav, was laying in between its legs. In other words, he just made a very funny depiction of the moon. The moon had a head, and it had ears, and it had a tail. And V'hitzatzti boy, wow, when I saw such a moon, I gazed at it. And V'nir Tasti, and I fell backwards. I was shocked, and I fell V'neflesi Lachoirai. That's how I saw the moon. In other words, he basically told them, guys, I'm coming here on behalf of people that are trying to trick you. And if you don't believe that I really did not see the moon, take a look at the 200 zuz, because they bribed with 400, I got 200. So they asked him, who involved you in this? Amar lahem. So he explained, you already heard for a long time, that when they were waiting for an opportunity for the 30th of Adar to fall out on a Shabbos, they were waiting for the time when they would know that the new moon was not seen, and then they would chaparain and send false witnesses. So Amarti, I said to myself, I'm going to be one of the false witnesses, because like this, I'm going to expose them. I'm going to notify you guys. Lahem means the Sanhedrin. Because maybe they're going to get two false witnesses that are taka, not good. And they might succeed in tricking and deceiving the Chachamim, the Sanhedrin. And that we were very grateful to him. So Amru Loi, so the Sanhedrin tells them, Mosayim zuz, the 200 zuz, nusunum lach, b'matana, they're yours. Now you understand something. When you get a bribe, not you, when God forbid, if someone takes a bribe, there is a monetary issue. They gave him 200 zuz to be a false testimony. He did not keep his side of the deal. He was not a fake testimony. He exposed the baisusim. Really, by the letter of the law, he has to give back the 200 zuz. But since Beis Din has a koyach known as Hefker, Beis Din Hefker, so they had the right to penalize the senders, the baisusim, and to have him acquire the money. And those who rented you, those who paid you, let's find who they are. We're going to stretch them out on the post, which is what you did to someone when you gave them malchus. And at that time, they made a decree, from now on, this is after the Churban, that we can only receive Eidim that testify they saw the new moon, only if we know them. And if we don't know them, let us hear from two witnesses that we do know that the moon seer is a kosher Jew. Good, we have time, let's move on to the next Mishnah. Another kilkel. Once you establish today Rosh Chodesh, so you have to notify all of the Jewish communities. So they had a very simple system. What was the system? Says the Mishnah, that originally what they would do is they would light a relay of torches. There was designated mountaintops upon which you would light a torch. Now let me say one thing, that's the Nakudah. Remember this, we'll begin with this tomorrow. There's two options for Rosh Chodesh. Day 29 never becomes Rosh Chodesh. Day 30 can remain day 30. Then the month is a full month. Rosh Chodesh is going to be declared on day 31. Or day 30, if people saw the moon the night before, because you only see the new moon by night, in the beginning of the night, they'll come to the Beis Din, and 30 will become day number 1, which will make last month into a chaser, into a deficient month. Only when the 30th was made into day number 1. That was when, so let's go. Friday night, people saw the new moon. Shabbos day was day 30, but Shabbos day became day number 1. In that type of kvius, would the Beis Din Motzoi Shabbos light torches, and they had a system where the next mountaintop lit a torch when they saw that torch, and everyone looked up to their designated mountaintops, and if at night they would see the torch lit, they would know. What would they know, Chevra? If tonight I saw a torch, I would know that now is already Yom Beis. They only lit a torch Motzoi Yom Aleph. They only lit a torch if Yom Aleph was on the 30th day. If the prior month was not made to be a deficient month, if no witnesses came on Shabbos, it's not only that they wouldn't light torches tonight, they would not even light torches tomorrow night, just to have it clear. They would only light torches on the night after the day that could have made the prior month a full month became Rosh Chodesh. And they would light the torches. But Misha Kilkalo HaKutim, here Nacha group. Kutim were people that were brought over, they were immigrants by force, brought over by Sancheiriv, they settled in Israel, they made a conversion because they were afraid there's something extraordinary, not good was happening to them. It was perhaps an unsincere conversion. There is a machlekes throughout Shas, whether they have a din of a Jew or not. Regardless, they, at this time of the Mishnah, there was a time where Rosh Hashana, people didn't know when Rosh Hashana was. Now imagine, in the case that we just explained, when the 29th day of Elul came, when you entered the 30th day, everyone kept Rosh Hashana because maybe today will become Rosh Hashana. And also, as we learned above, that Miyamois Ezra Ve'elach, Elul always had 29 days. But listen to this. If Motzoi Rosh Hashana, they would not see torches. Why would they not see torches? Because Beis Din did not make that day Rosh Hashana. Then they would keep tomorrow Rosh Hashana, even according to Rashi, to make sure that they're keeping Rosh Hashana, because if they don't see torches, then what they thought was only the 30th of El. Came along the Kutim wanting to make people not keep Rosh Hashana. Beis Din did not declare day 30, day number 1. Everyone really needed to keep the next day Rosh Hashana. The Kutim lit the torches. And when all of the Jewish people saw the torches, what did they think? Torches meant that we already kept Rosh Hashana, and now we are in Beis Tishrei. We don't have to stop doing work, we don't make Kiddush, everything, we don't have to blow the shofar. And that ruined it for everyone. They made everyone think that they already kept Rosh Hashana because they lit the torches. And again, whenever you saw the torches, it meant that you are now Motzoi Yom Aleph of the month. In the case of Tishrei, you're Motzoi Yontif. So what did we do? Iskinu, from then on, no more torches.
That Elul is always chaser.
So I keep on saying this. So even though there is a klal that the de facto Miyamois Ezra Ve'elach Elul was chaser, but the bottom line of everything we learned over the past few days is that none of this was set in stone. And if Beis Din had a communal need, or if it was cloudy, then Elul would not be chaser. And that's why we learned, Danny, a story that everyone in Goyla, they were keeping Yom Kippur, and when it was on the 11th day, we learned that yesterday, they were notified that that year, that Elul had 30 days. That's why they got the wrong Yom Kippur. It was such a possibility. Let's go over here. So what happened is, shiur shluchim yoitzim. You have to have shluchim. And like we learned above, not edim. I know shluchim is in the plural, but one shliach is enough for every location to notify that. And this is how they established a new month. Now, it's amazing how something that is not being done is described in such detail, according to many opinions, because in the future we're going to go back to this. And I'm sure there are ruchnias dike inyanim in the way they lit the torches, because now that we have technology, you can argue just send a WhatsApp or send a text, but there's something about this system. That Keitzer hoyu masim asois. Look at the detail. That meviem kiloin so'oi shel eres aruchim. They would bring long poles of cedar wood, and vikanim and reed, and va'atzi shemen and balsam wood, and arishal pishtem flax combings. No, it's things that chap fire quickly. And v'koidach v'meshicha, they would tie all of these easy flammable items on top of these long cedar wooden poles. And v'hoidal reshar, they would go on top of a mountain. U'matzes v'hemes, and they would set it on fire. And then they would shake it the way we shake a lulav. Why would they shake these poles? Says the Tosfos, second to last Tosfos, because when you are in the distance and you see some light in the sky, you might think that it's a star. We live in the city, we don't see stars. It can look like a star, but when you begin to move it up and down and back and forth, and if it's just one movement, it's a shooting star. Today it's an airplane, but they moved it in a way where they know it's a torch. Back inside the Mishnah. He would stay and do these movements until he would see the fellow mountain, the designated fellow mountaintop, is doing the same. What was the first mountaintop? Look at the detail. It began on Har HaZeisim. And from Har HaZeisim it went to the next mountaintop called Sartava. Mountain Sartava. From Mountain Sartava it went Liger Roifina. From Roifina it went to Chavron. From Chavron it went to Beis Baltin. From Beis Baltin, that was the final mountain. That Loizazu Misham. The guy kept on going up and down with the fire. Until he would see the entire diaspora. We are speaking dafke about Pumbedisa, as we'll see, God willing, in the next shiurim, that the whole Pumbedisa has to be filled with torches of fire. Now, just beginning, says the Gemara that the word Masiyan means they lit torches. Where do we find that the word Masiyan means dikoit, means burning? T'chsiv, vayisoam David va'anashav, that David HaMelech and his people, vayisou, and that's not what they carried, that's when they put something on fire. They burned down the fields of the Pelishtim. Umitagaminon, that v'oikdinon David, and Tanach Rabbanon, like we spoke out already, that ein Masiyan Masuais, they wouldn't light a torch always on Rosh Chodesh. They would only light the torches Ella al Chodesh Sheniroi Bismanoi Lekachoi. Again, the 30th day, if the 30th day already became Rosh Chodesh during the day, Adam saw the new moon last night. They came today to the Sanhedrin. Now, tonight, they would light the torches. The Amos Haimasian, and when would they light it? Only La'oidi Burei, only Matsoi Yom Aleph. Oirli Yom Beis, Lememra, the Achased Avdinan, they would only light torches when the last month became a deficient month. Va'amalei Loi Avdinan, God willing to be continued.